We start tonight with President Trump's latest wave of pardons. Earlier today, alone, the president granted clemency to at least 9 individuals. Among them were former Republican congressmen Michael Grimm and reality TV figures Todd and Julie Crisley. Earlier in the week, he also pardoned former Virginia Sheriff Scott Jenkins. Our Scott McFarland is with me now. Scott, looking at these pardons, any of them were there? Any particular concerns about the cases? Any close calls? Some of these pardons followed the traditional process. People applied, made their case for clemency, asked for commutation or a full pardon, the standard procedure we've seen for generations. But some of these were very different. Some differed in how they were executed, and some were simply unusual altogether. Take Virginia Sheriff Scott Jenkins, caught on tape taking bribes for badges, a longtime Trump loyalist. He hadn't even begun serving his prison sentence yet, John. He was scheduled to report later this week. Now, I need to tell you about something absolutely brutal that has just happened to Donald Trump, because Democrats have figured out exactly how to expose his pardon corruption, and they're doing it publicly in the most devastating way possible. Trump has been running this wild clemency machine, handing out pardons to drug traffickers, corrupt officials, and anyone displaying loyalty. And Democrats are using his own actions and statements to humiliate him on a national stage. They're calling out the fact that Trump pardoned Juan Orlando Hernandez, the former Honduran president convicted of helping traffic 400 tons of cocaine into the U.S., while at the same time threatening military strikes on Venezuelan drug cartels. They're pointing out that Trump has granted pardons to 17 corrupt politicians, including people nailed for kickbacks and bribery. And they are mocking Trump for the way his pardon of Henry Cuellar completely exploded in his face after Cuellar refused to switch parties, leading Trump to throw a very public tantrum about disloyalty. Democrats are calling this extrajudicial favoritism. They're calling it the normalization of corruption. And they're making sure voters hear about it heading into the 2026 midterms. But before we continue, let's be real for a second. You can't trust mainstream media anymore. That's why we built Pump Politics, real stories, real context, no corporate spin. If you want to stay ahead of the headlines, join our free newsletter. We'll send the news straight to your inbox daily. Just tap the link in the description. And if you just want to support what we're doing, join us. Be part of a community that actually cares about the truth. Alright, back to the video. Jenkins's entire prison term has now vanished because of the pardon. Typically, John, in this system you need to have served some time, paid restitution, shown some form of growth. and exhausted your appeals. None of that applied to the Grizzlies either. The reality TV stars. This was the White House turning it into a social media moment. They posted video of Trump calling the Grizzlies' daughter to tell her about the pardon, making a bit of theatrics out of it. And keep in mind, their daughter spoke at last year's Republican National Convention, which is definitely going to fuel criticism. John, this is extremely politically motivated. Now, here's why this Democratic attack works so well. It cuts directly into the core of Trump's political identity. Trump has built his brand on being tough on crime and tough on drugs. He constantly talks about fentanyl. He blames cartels for poisoning American communities. He threatens military action against traffickers. And then he pardons a man convicted of bringing 400 tons of cocaine into the United States. 400 tons. Enough cocaine to devastate countless American families. That's billions in drug money. And Trump let him go free. Democrats are not letting this fade. They're hitting it again and again. They're pointing out the hypocrisy in terms anyone can grasp. The numbers on Trump's pardon spree are staggering. Rolling Stone reports that Trump has granted more than 2,000 pardons and commutations in 2025 alone, a tenfold jump from his first term. He is granting clemency at a rate that's completely unprecedented. And the pattern is clear. He's rewarding allies, letting corrupt politicians walk, and using pardons as a political tool. The blanket clemency for January 6th defendants, the pardons for crooked officials who might benefit him. The releases secured for drug traffickers whose networks lobbied for them. This is not mercy or justice. As Rolling Stone put it, this is normalizing corruption on a massive scale. Democrats are also loving the Cuellar saga because it perfectly exposes Trump's intent. Trump pardoned Cuellar, a Democrat facing $600,000 in bribery charges, apparently expecting him to switch to the GOP. When Cuellar took the pardon and stayed a Democrat, Trump ran to Truth Social and complained about a lack of loyalty. Democrats are roasting him for it. They're saying Trump openly admitted he wanted something in return. They're highlighting how his extortion attempt failed. They're using Trump's own words to show that he views pardons as transactions. And the comedy of the failed loyalty grab is giving Democrats non-stop ammunition. Seriously, Trump pardoned a drug lord who helped move 400 tons of cocaine into the U.S. while claiming to fight a drug war. He pardoned 17 corrupt politicians. He complained when one didn't pay him back in loyalty. And he issued more than 2,000 clemencies in a single year, a massive jump, largely for allies or politically useful figures. Democrats are calling this exactly what it is. They're showing the corruption. They're pointing out the hypocrisy. And they're making sure voters understand that Trump's tough on crime persona is pure fiction. Now let me take you deeper into how Democrats are weaponizing this. This is a coordinated strategy aimed at exposing corruption and hypocrisy ahead of the midterms. They've realized Trump's clemency spree is one of his biggest weak points. It contradicts everything he claims to represent and provides solid evidence of corrupt motives. Let me walk you through the precise attacks they're using, the facts they're emphasizing, and why this is so potent. Let's begin with the Hernandez pardon, because this is the most damaging example in Democrats' arsenal. Juan Orlando Hernandez served as Honduras's president from 2014 to 2022. Prosecutors and juries found that he turned his country into a major transit hub for US-bound cocaine. He accepted cartel bribes. He used the Honduran military and police to protect shipments. He wasn't turning a blind eye, he was part of the operation. When the US finally prosecuted him, a jury convicted him of cocaine, conspiracy and weapons charges involving machine guns and destructive devices. He was sentenced to 540 months, a near life sentence, and Trump freed him. Democrats are framing this as the peak of hypocrisy. Trump threatens military strikes on Venezuelan cartels. He brags about fighting fentanyl. He calls himself the crime-fighting president. And then he pardons one of the biggest drug traffickers ever prosecuted. Democrats call it extrajudicial favoritism. They're asking why Trump goes after some drug traffickers with military threats while giving others presidential pardons. Their answer: Trump's anti-drug stance is theater, performative toughness masking protective favoritism. The 17 corrupt politicians who received pardons give Democrats a perfect pattern to emphasize. This isn't one sketchy pardon. This isn't two. 17 corrupt officials were freed. Glenn Casada, the former Tennessee Speaker, convicted of kickbacks, pardoned. Henry Cuellar, tied to $600,000 in bribes, pardoned. Joseph Schwartz, the nursing home executive who paid lobbyists nearly $1 million before securing clemency, pardoned. 7 federal officials and more on state levels freed. Democrats are compiling these cases to show that Trump has built a special justice tier for corrupt politicians who either support him or offer political usefulness. The Watchdog Group crew has been tracking these pardons, giving Democrats even more ammunition. Crew's research shows the pattern clearly. Trump is systematically freeing political allies convicted of corruption. The Rolling Stone report that Trump has issued over 2,000 pardons in 2025 alone is devastating because of its sheer scale. A tenfold increase from his entire first term. No president has ever used clemency like this. And the beneficiaries are overwhelmingly his connections, allies, and those useful to him. Blanket. January 6th pardons. Political corruption. Cases. Drug traffickers with the right. People lobbying for them. Democrats argue that Trump has effectively legalized corruption for those in his orbit. If you're loyal enough, you can commit crimes and expect forgiveness. Now the Cuellar case gives Democrats a perfect piece of evidence for corrupt intent. Trump himself admitted the expectation when Cuellar refused to switch parties after receiving the pardon. Trump went online complaining about a lack of loyalty. Democrats are saying this proves the transaction. If a pardon were true mercy, loyalty wouldn't matter. Cuellar could choose whatever political future he wanted. But Trump expected something. When he didn't get it, he raged publicly. Democrats argue that Trump's pardons amount to extortion, clemency in exchange for loyalty. The Cuellar situation shows what happens when the deal fails. Trump can't undo the pardon, but he can erupt publicly, proving what the pardon was really about. The contrast with Trump's rhetoric is at the core of Democrats' case. Trump brands himself as law and order. He says Democrats are soft on crime. He attacks prosecutors who investigate him as corrupt and says the system is rigged. Then he pardons drug traffickers and corrupt politicians at unprecedented levels. Democrats argue that Trump is the most corrupt president in modern history. When it comes to the pardon power, using it solely for personal and political gain, the White House defense has been weak. They claim Trump is correcting Biden-era witch hunts. They insist prosecutions like Hernandez were politically motivated. But this collapses under even basic scrutiny. Hernandez was convicted on overwhelming evidence. A jury found him guilty. The drug shipments were real. Calling real prosecutions witch hunts doesn't magically make them fraudulent. Democrats point out the White House has no real defense, just empty political shouting. Politically, the implications for the 2026 midterms are enormous. Trump's pardon scandal gives Democrats a concrete, easy-to-explain campaign issue. They can point to faces and names. Hernandez, the drug trafficker. Cuellar, the bribery case. Schwartz, the fraudster. And the numbers are simple: over 2,000 clemencies in 1 year. 17 corrupt politicians. Trump's own public meltdown over Cuellar's disloyalty. Every part of this is simple to communicate to voters. Trump says he's tough on crime, but he frees criminals. He says he fights drugs, but he pardons traffickers. He claims to battle corruption, but he frees the corrupt. The hypocrisy is glaring. Now let me break down what all this means and why it matters. These attacks expose exactly how Trump uses. They highlight contradictions voters understand instantly. And they create political vulnerabilities Democrats can exploit. Here are the main takeaways. Point 1. Pardoning a man who moved 400 tons of cocaine destroys any image of being tough on drugs. 400 tons. Enough to fuel addiction and death across the U.S., enough to generate billions for cartels. And Trump freed him. There is no proper explanation for someone who threatens military strikes against cartels but pardons a drug trafficker of this scale. Democrats hammering this are right. Trump's anti-drug stance is a complete fabrication. Point 2. Pardoning 17 corrupt political figures shows this isn't accidental, it's systematic. 1 or 2 questionable pardons could be chalked up to poor judgment. But 17? That's a deliberate program. People convicted of fraud, bribery, and kickbacks walking free because Trump said so. Democrats aren't calling this random, they're calling it a system, and the evidence backs them up. Point 3. More than 2,000 clemencies in 1 year shows unprecedented abuse of the pardon power. Trump's 2025 clemency numbers dwarf anything in modern history, a tenfold increase over his first term. This isn't normal. It's a political operation. Blanket pardons for January 6th. Clemency for corrupt politicians. Releases for drug traffickers with the right connections. Democrats say this is the legalization of corruption, and the scale backs that up. Point 4. Trump's public complaint about Cuellar's disloyalty proves pardons are transactional. This is the smoking gun. Pardon recipients are expected to pay Trump back not with money but with loyalty. When Cuellar didn't, Trump raged. And that rage proves the intent behind the pardon. Democrats are using this as definitive evidence. Point 5. Democrats making this a key midterm message puts Trump's hypocrisy front and center. This strategy is smart. It's easy to explain. Drug lord pardoned by supposed anti-drug president. Corruption pardoned by supposed anti-corruption president. Loyalty expected in exchange for clemency. Voters don't need legal expertise to understand this, just common sense. Democrats are driving this message in swing districts. Here's the bottom line: Democrats are publicly humiliating Trump over his pardon operation. They're emphasizing the Hernandez case, the 17 corrupt officials, the 2,000 plus clemencies, and the Cuellar loyalty meltdown. They're calling it extrajudicial favoritism and legalized corruption. They're using Trump's own words to prove pardons are transactional. And they're making this a central issue for 2026. Trump's pardon spree cannot be defended. On the merits. He claims to fight drug crime while freeing a trafficker behind 400 tons of cocaine. He says he supports law and order while pardoning corrupt politicians. He says he opposes the rigged system while creating one where the connected walk free. The hypocrisy is total. The corruption is systematic. Democrats are making sure voters understand that the White House calling these witch hunt corrections is laughable. Hernandez was convicted by a jury with overwhelming evidence. Corrupt officials who received pardons had real victims and real convictions. Calling legitimate prosecutions political doesn't make them political. It makes the defense look desperate. Trump's clemency spree is historic in scale, and the pattern is clear: allies in the well-connected walk free. This isn't mercy. It's corruption. The Cuellar case captures the transactional nature perfectly. Trump expected a party switch, didn't get it, and publicly complained. Democrats are using that as the clearest proof of corrupt intent. Trump admitted it himself. Rolling Stone called this the normalization of corruption, and that's accurate. A president pardoning traffickers and corrupt politicians at this pace creates a culture where corruption carries no consequence. Trump isn't draining the swamp, he's protecting it. Democrats know this is a political soft spot, and they're attacking it from every angle. They have the examples, the numbers, the statements, and the receipts. Trump's responses, calling everything persecution, don't hold up. The facts are public. The crimes are documented. The hypocrisy is obvious. The loyalty complaint is recorded. Denial can't erase that. The pardon corruption scandal isn't fading. Democrats have found a potent line of attack, and they're not letting it go. Trump's own decisions created this problem, and the political fallout is his to deal with. All right, that's everything for today. Democrats will continue hammering Trump over his pardon scandals, and this story is going to expand as the midterms get closer. Make sure you're subscribed with notifications on, because developments are coming fast. Drop your thoughts below. Are Democrats right to go after Trump on pardons? Is this the most corrupt use of clemency in American history? I want to know what you think, and I'll see you in the next one.